All right, welcome back. I wanted to make an update on the video I put earlier today. It was very confusing. I was doing that in a very short period of time, and it was all conversation that had kind of been happening live, and they were adding more clarifications as we went. So I didn't have time to fully do the research, and I apologize for having that so confusing. I just wanted to get that out there. Now that I'm home and I've had some time, I've looked through it again, and we'll make another video to help you understand this problem a lot better. So, based on one of their older dev streams, you can see this image here of how combat styles are basically going to work. Is they're showing you inside of the golden border, I guess you'll call it, that there are the combat styles. So Jedi Guardian, Sith Juggernaut, Jedi Sentinel, so on. And then in these gray icons, you can see that that's actually, let's see now, let's grab a pencil. All right, so here's going to be our class story. We've got the 4 Force user class stories, depending on if you're choosing the Republic side or the Imperial side. And then you've got the same thing with your tech users. You've got your 4 class stories, you've got your Republic side and your Imperial side. And then within there are all your combat styles. So there's 8 combat styles. When you create a brand new character, and if they're a tech user, probably should have used the text feature there, but anyways, you have access to all 8 of these combat styles in terms of which one you want to play with right from the beginning. So you make a tech user and you can pick any one of these 8 for a brand new character. When you go to make a brand new character as a Force user, it's a little bit different. So say that you want to start off on the Republic side, they're considered light-sided, and you pick a Jedi Knight. Immediately you will have available to you all of your light side choices. So just these 4, and then your dark side choices will not be available until you get the Legacy Unlock Dark 5 or Dark V. So if you've already played the game, chances are you already have this by maxing out Dark to level 5, or, of course, in the other way around, if you chose an Imperial character and you needed Light 5 unlocked to be able to bring these classes over to be available. So when you create a new character, if you don't already have Light 5 or Dark 5 unlocked, you're going to face some restrictions on only being able to pick half the combat styles on Force users, whereas Tech users get access to all of them immediately. There is no mixing and matching Force and Tech users, so you are going to be limited to only having Tech styles on a Tech user and Force styles on a Force user. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's really, the stories aren't designed to deal with a tech user actually having the Force. Yeah, that'd be very weird. There are a few other complications that are going to come into play in regards of your actual ability to pick mirror classes when it comes to dark and light for the Force users in terms of which stories you've already completed. I'm not going to get into that. That's very niche. That's very minor case that's going to happen. What's really going to be the big focus for people is what's going to happen to existing characters who already have a style that they've picked, as well as what's going to happen for picking your second combat style. So they have confirmed that existing characters will not be allowed to change their initial selection. So whatever your character is right now, they're stuck with that style. So if you set them to be a commando, or if you set them to be a Sith sorcerer, their first combat style is locked in. There's no changing that. There is one small exception where if you have not Legacy Unlocked Light 5 and you're a Sith sorcerer, and there's a few other caveats about how the class story, whether you've completed it or not, then when you reach Light 5, you will be given the option to be able to switch over to a light side user, a mirror class. So that's kind of going to be a one-time only thing because you only ever unlock that in your legacy once because it's a legacy-wide unlock. So it's a very minor use case. It's going to be a very small number of people, but if you have recently just started playing the game, that is something that is still open for you on your Force user, as you probably haven't made Dark or Light 5 at this point. So, yes, existing characters, they had mentioned that they had wanted to allow us to change that initial combat style of all our existing characters, pick a new one. And they've now said, no, we're not doing that. They found that due to technical challenges, they just didn't have the resources or didn't want to spend the resources on allowing us to change our first combat style. So you're stuck with your first combat style. If you are a subscriber, as a perk, you can select a second combat style. So instead of having to make a new character, you can add a second combat style. And how that's going to look is basically you're going to want to look and say, on that character, have I already, for the class story here, so Jedi Consular character, have I already unlocked the Act 3 or Chapter 3? If you've done that, then they can freely switch their combat style. So the whole idea is that any character that fits one of the original 8 in your legacy, one of these original, whether it be Imperial or Republic, you want to always be looking and saying, if I load up a character who is a smuggler, according to the current system, if I have this legacy unlock, I can immediately pick their second class. So the general idea is they want you to play each class story through on one combat style before you can pick your second one. And because you can't change your first combat style, you have to finish the story on the original combat style you had selected, unless you feel like creating a new character and starting again. So I'm definitely a little disappointed that they did not bring the ability to change our first combat style for existing characters when 7.0 launches. I was really looking forward to that. I thought it was a great quality of life choice for people, and they just basically said, yeah, it's too technically difficult, so we're not going to be able to bring that to you. And the whole thing that happened with the Dark and Light, so Dark and Light 5, is on the PTS, you were actually able to access the scene to switch your Force user from Dark to Light or vice versa. And they said that was a bug, that wasn't intentional. They have an intentional design choice to lock you out of being able to switch your first combat style between the mirror class on Force users. Very sad that that was something they actually had available to us. And then they said, no, we're actually taking it away because that's not a feature we wanted in the game. So I was a little disappointed about that, to say the least. And yeah, so now all of my existing characters, they are going to be stuck with the style that they originally had, which in certain cases is not going to be a problem at all. And in other cases, will be a little bit of a downer that now I have to think a little more carefully about what's the second style that I want to add to those characters. I no longer have the freedom to set that character to 2 styles of my choice. Because I do have some characters that I created just to play through the story, and that's it, So now I'm kind of like, well, I'd like to experiment around and change stuff. I don't want to necessarily set one of my characters' second style to a class I've never played before just to try out that class, when maybe I want to set that character to have access to a class that I'm going to use a lot more or play with a lot more. So we definitely are going to have to limit ourselves a bit thinking about that with existing characters. Brand new characters, very few restrictions. Again, if you have a brand new character, what you're looking for is, do you have, for the class story, do you have that Chapter 3? Have you finished the class story? And if so, whenever you create something with the class story of Jedi Knight, they have access to being able to pick 2 combat styles immediately. And then the Dark and Light Alignment 5, Legacy Unlock, you want to be looking at those as well. Figure out with the Force users if you can select their mirrored classes, whereas the tech users have immediate access. So hopefully this really clarifies things up for people, and this video makes a lot more sense than the previous one. Thanks to everybody who did watch the first one and didn't get too mad at me about it. A few people provided some constructive feedback, and a couple other people just said it sucked. But thank you very much for watching, and there's the latest updates that we've gotten confirmed from the developers. There was some back and forth on the forums versus what was being said by one of their employees in Discord, where he reaches out to talk to members of the public and engage them. So yeah, it was a bit confusing, but basically this is a confirmation that we've been given and the clarification after asking many questions of that employee who reached out on Discord to talk to the Star Wars fans.